So just scratching the surface here of something that could be helpful to you in your analytical response, where you're asked to look at two of the three of either Homer, Herodotus, and Thucydides in the excerpts we've read. Here I want to think a little bit about how these folks are different, right? So Herodotus, writing about the Persian Wars, really doesn't have anything to build off of in terms of a history other than Homer. And so he wants to talk about things that actually happened, but he also wants to entertain people. And his work is very much literary because of that. And for his perspective, if it's not a good story, nobody's going to read it, so what's the point? Thucydides, on the other hand, claims that he grounds himself in facts. And he says that in doing so, kind of the third point here is, quote, "It might not be the most riveting story." He says, "The absence of romance in my history will, I fear, detract somewhat from its interest." In other words, this might be boring as shit. "But if it be judged useful by those inquirers who desire an exact knowledge of the past as an aid to understanding the future, which in the course of human things must resemble if it does not reflect it, I shall be content." So if you're thinking about this, Herodotus is writing for his contemporaries, the people around him, to help them understand why the Persian Wars happened and why the Greeks were successful. It's about them, right? It tells a story of how they got there. For Thucydides, he's writing about something that he's going through and has gone through, and he's trying to lay out the facts without providing a moral lesson. He wants the reader to be able to read that description and come up with the lesson themselves. And for him, that reader is future generations, right? People who can see how the fact that Pericles basically presented himself as a hero of Athens but turned himself into a dictator and started a war created a lot of problems. And he wants to be able to point out what Greeks, both in terms of Athenians and Spartans, did well and what they did poorly, so that other people in the future can build off of that. So hopefully you can see that as you dig into those sources. Thucydides still models himself a lot off of Herodotus, right? The introduction, the way they present themselves is the same. And while he talks smack, he's also very much indebted to him. So on the last slide, I will leave you with a little cartoon that, again, I think is hilarious, and you'll probably not think is all that funny at all. Also, if you want to read a little bit more on the comparison to get some ideas that might help you with that analytical response, feel free to click on this link. Otherwise, enjoy going through Homer, Herodotus, and Thucydides. Don't forget quiz and analytical response, and hit me up if I can be of help.